All right, welcome to week 2. Hopefully last week you were able to start a workout program and keep a food journal so that we can have something to work off of for this week. This week, what we're really going to focus on is your nutrition. And so, first of all, it's really important to note that working out and exercising has really not much to do with weight loss. Okay, so you can work out and a lot and never lose any weight. Okay, so really the two aren't correlated. You can not work out at all and lose a lot of weight. Really, working out and exercising is for having a healthy body, and our nutrition is for, losing weight and things like that. We're going to get far more on that by, being really mindful of what we're eating than any amount of working out we can do. But working out is still really important, but your nutrition is by far the most important for you, reaching some of your goals with your weight. So hopefully your goals really are just to have a healthy, like a natural body weight, whatever that may be for you. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you're going to find that out throughout, your journey with Beachbody. But really, if we want to have a natural body weight, then we need to have natural hunger and natural desire. Because when we're overweight, then we are overeating, which means we're over desiring food, and we're overly hungry, which causes us to overeat. Okay, so we have to solve for those things for us to have a natural body weight. Okay, so we talked a little bit about pleasure last week, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that and kind of the role of pleasure and the purpose of pleasure and why our brain always wants pleasure. Okay, and really the purpose of pleasure is to motivate us, to keep us alive, to motivate us to take action because we want pleasure. Okay, so it's a really powerful thing for our brain. Pleasure is. Okay, so in our environment, though, there's lots of ways that we get pleasure, and a lot of the ways are false pleasures. So I have some notes here again for us, okay? But some false pleasures are things that are not naturally in our environment. Okay, so, and we know it's a false pleasure if the more you do of it, the less pleasure you get from it. So it's like we do more, we get less. Okay, so an example of this is like alcohol, right? The more you drink it, the more you have to drink it to get the same result. Okay, so it's not natural. A lot of it's like processed sugar, flour, drugs, alcohol, even things like Facebook likes or social media type of things. All of that is false pleasure. Okay, so our brain thinks it's a pleasure, but it's really not. It's false. Okay, and it's just like a thought error, like thinking we need this thing, but we really don't. Like we really need Facebook likes. That means we have friends. Doesn't really mean that, but our brain thinks that it's important. Okay. And then real pleasure is the more you do of it, the more pleasure you get from it. So it's this really rewarding loop that we want to get in. Okay. So that is some examples of that are like love and connection, like real connection with other people, physical touch, contribution. The more we contribute, the more pleasure we get from contributing, the more we want to contribute more. Things like exercise. Exercise is also a natural pleasure. Okay, so really important to notice that. And so when we're getting over pleasure, we're going to call it, okay, from false pleasures, then that means we're desiring them more and more. And we have to, like, with a false pleasure, you're having to continually get more and more of it. So it's creating all this false pleasure and making us overly desire these things that we really aren't giving us real pleasure. Okay. And then when we have over pleasure, then that's when desire comes in. Okay. So when we think things are really pleasurable, we're going to desire them more. Right. So if we think that sugar, we need it to survive, it's really important, we're going to desire it more than something we think we don't really need to survive. Okay. And so, and desire, we have like this limited amount of it. It's like it's a muscle, and there's only so much of it that we can use it before it's just all worn out. It doesn't have a very strong effect anymore. And so there's this limited amount of desire that we have. And we really need to be mindful of what we want to use our desire for. Do we want to be desiring food and these false pleasures all the time? Or do we want to be desiring things like contribution and our building connections with other people and, contributing more in the world? Do we want to be desiring those type of things, or, things like false pleasures? What kind of things do you want to be desiring? Because there's only so much desire that you can have before it's, doesn't work anymore. Okay. And so, something too is whenever we get in the mindset where we're depriving ourselves of something, like we really desire it, but we're not allowing ourselves to have it, but we really desire it, then we feel like deprivation, right? And we feel like we're depriving ourselves of something we really desire. That's never going to last very long. Okay, so we got to be really onto that. Okay, and then when we overly desire things, then that's when we're going to be overly hungry and we're going to overeat. Okay, and so really what we want to work on this week, and again, we can dive more into this when we have an actual one-on-one call with something specific that maybe you feel like you could use some extra help with. But really what we want to do with our nutrition, the most important thing if you're really serious about your nutrition is you need to plan ahead of time. Because if you don't plan ahead of time, then you're going to be left at the mercy of your toddler brain when you didn't plan for eating and now you're overly hungry because you're starving, and you're going to just eat whatever's the most readily available thing to you. Okay. And so if you're not planning ahead of time, you're really just setting yourself up to fail, and you're going to have a hard time, sticking with any type of eating protocol, whether it's the 2B mindset or the 21-day, the fixed portions or anything that you choose to do. You're not gonna be able to stick to it if you aren't planning it in advance. Okay. And this can be really simple. It can be literally writing it down the day before. This is what I'm eating and this is the time I'm eating it. If you, and we want to really base off what your food journal is. So if currently on your food journal, you're eating, let's say, a candy bar and you're having 2 sodas a day, then we don't want to cut all that out, right? Because it's not realistic. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at what you're currently eating, what you ate last week, and you're going to maybe up level a couple of those foods. So if you're whatever meal plan you're on, you're going to maybe try to switch them out, a few things that you think that you can do. So the main thing is that we're not going to be giving into immediate gratification, right? So if I'm tired at 2:00 and I really want to have a Dr. Pepper, I'm not going to do that unless I have planned it, right? So 24 hours in advance. So 24 hours in advance, when I'm writing my meal plan, I'm saying, hey, at 2:00, I'm going to drink a Dr. Pepper. Or at noon, I'm going to eat a Snickers with my lunch. Okay. Or at 8:00 p.m., I'm going to eat ice cream. Okay. But whatever it is, you have to plan it in advance, because I promise you, if you do this, it's going to take a lot of the pleasure out of eating those things, because a lot of the pleasure comes from having the urge to eat it and answering that urge to eat it. And if we already planned it and it's not quite as exciting, it's not impulsive, then it's going to feel a little bit different. Okay. And that's what we want. All right. And so you're going to plan it ahead of time and you're going to eat only what you plan. So if it's not on your plan, you don't eat it. Okay. And you have to eat it exactly at the same time. So if you were going to eat a Snickers at noon and you didn't, you don't get to eat it at 6:00 when you're, having a craving, right? You only get to eat it when you plan. This is really, really important. Okay. If you can do this and you're going to stick to it for 2 weeks. So whatever you're doing, if you chose 2B mindset or you're doing the fixed portions or whatever you're doing, and if you don't really have anything nailed down that you're doing, you're just going to write out what you're going to eat. Okay. And you're going to stick to that for 2 weeks. So you're just going to follow it. You're going to plan it out in advance and you're going to eat it. You're going to eat only what's on your plan. This is really important. Okay. And then you're going to allow yourself to want to go off of that plan and eat something else, and just allow yourself to want to eat something differently and not do it. Okay. You're going to allow yourself to really think that you need to eat a piece of cake, but you're not going to eat it. Okay. Unless you have planned it 24 hours in advance. Okay. So, and then you're just going to repeat that. You're just going to keep doing that. And the more you can do this, you're going to find that you actually can follow an eating protocol, and you're going to be able to make adjustments and really notice how the food is affecting you and where you're getting your pleasure from, and just have a lot of awareness with it. Okay. So that's our goal for you this week, is you really dial in your nutrition. You're planning in advance. You're planning a shopping list. You are taking the time, set aside 30 minutes. This is the most important thing you can do. Your body is your tool to live in the world, and how you feed it and what you're putting in your body is really important. So you can take 30 minutes and plan out, or 20 minutes, whatever you need, right? Make it a priority for you. Okay. Make it a priority, plan it out, follow your protocol, and we will see you next week.